role of government is also then to pick. You said like as they saw the solution emerge, they had a role, but sometimes also we want them to maybe be in the leadership of opening the market, creating the market. And how do governments are supposed to prioritize those opportunities and say, okay, we have 50 policies we could enact. Which one should we enact first? How do you think about that? Franz, Richard, and everybody here, Paula, Nigel, do you help governments doing that? And how do you propose that they do?
I would start with your current strength. So the reason why wind makes sense in Denmark is because if you look at the wind energy potential map or atlas of Denmark, it has amazing potential. Solar in Germany, much less. And basically the industry didn't stick, but that also has to do with how China subsidized the development. So I would always start in a place that fits with the sort of the starting point that you have. So let's say for Germany, automotive, makes sense. Anything transport related makes sense. For a country like the Netherlands with a huge chemical industry, it would make sense to say, well, shouldn't we be leading the transition from oil to CO2 as a resource? So it really
we
helps.
Talk about regional strengths in it instead, so we can have an alignment of many countries. Because what we see is that if a small countries do a demand side policy, that's probably not enough, right? So Richard,
I don't agree because
how do you?
I don't agree.
If it's
Europe
Germany,
is very good. Europe is very good in frameworks, but very poor in implementation because it's not how it's set up. Denmark is a country of, 7-8 million people, and they created the wind energy revolution. So, small countries can do pretty big things. If you look at Finland, Finland has 80% cogeneration, the highest number of the world. There's no country in the world with more cogeneration than Finland. The move from gas to hydrogen is best done in Finland as a fuel for cogen. Maybe you want to do something else, but if I would be a politician in Finland, I would think, we have a resource here. We have this whole installed capacity. We have an industry that knows how this works. We should be the first country in the world to go green in this specific area. I think that would make perfect sense. And I'm sure Paula agrees.
Well, I think, I think it's a combination, obviously, and we need like a balanced policy framework where the starting point is the generic framework conditions that hopefully, incentivize these sustainability investments enough. And then you can go to these industry-specific policies. I think that would be a good example of this sort of a starting from strengths and choosing an industry-specific policy approach. And in some particular areas, I think you do need several of those two as well. But then, I mean, even narrowing down from that, then you can have like some even more targeted, but there I would use this more like this sort of open call or challenge competition type of approaches again, and so on and so forth. So I think it's a combination of different policies on national level where I tend to agree that you can, as a small nation, do these sort of bold choices and put a lot of focus in the certain area if the market opportunity is global, right? It doesn't matter if your home base is small if the market opportunity is global. And obviously your ecosystem and your value network, you do need to, from the start, build globally.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. Richard, you always talk about the fact that policy, demand side policy is so important, taking a global view. Do you think that alignment between countries on policy can have even a bigger impact and faster?
Ultimately, for sure. I mean, I think I would distinguish between policies relating to technologies that are proven and ready to go, where global alignment would massively help, versus I think what Paula and Franz are talking about are more sort of beachhead. How do you stimulate the early market, in which case, yeah, sure, a country, however small, can make a big difference. one of the things we've been pointing out to the EU about the scale-up problem is it's very hard to scale a European company because the regulations and everything is so different border to border. And that would be an example where alignment in these sort of so-called future industries would be massively helpful. If you want, if you're serious about so-called creating the jobs of the future and the European champions. So you've got to distinguish where we are, right? EVs are in a totally different place to, say, hydrogen. Hydrogen requires that early push to help electrolyzers, frankly, get to the cost that makes a market take off. But Nigel's probably better positioned to comment on that.
Nigel?
Maybe to address your original question there, the start with the strengths, I really like that. What I find from the policy aspect is that sometimes the dots aren't always joined up, as in the industrials aren't talking to the policy people, and the policy people aren't at the tables where the industrials are discussing, and the industrials are chatting together. I often think that in these types of conversations there can sometimes be why not have a policy person and to give them our perspective, and also